to another 31 Days of Horror 2016 Toronto After Dark video. In this video we are talking about a Canadian film. A Canadian film that is, well, it's a simple idea, but it is not the easiest, I would say, to pull off, perhaps. It is not the first time we have gone down this road. Probably won't be the last time. But we just don't have enough killer bed movies. Therefore, I welcome the addition of Bed of the Dead. Yes, Bed of the Dead. Essentially, it's a killer bed movie. Directed by John Mayer, who, well, he's not known for directing, but he does have cinematography credits on things like Antisocial, Bite, Antisocial 2, Let Her Out, and amongst a whole bunch of other things. So it's no, I'm not surprised that Bed of the Dead at least looks half decent. Clearly he has an idea of how to frame and light and shoot scenes, so though we don't get anything clearly spectacular with Bed of the Dead, much of it is due to budgetary constraints. They do tend to do quite a bit with what they have available to them, essentially. Now, what Bed of the Dead is the film opens up with, as is commonplace with things of this nature, why is the bed a killer bed? Well, it's made from the tree where, people were hung way back when, and that wood was used to form the bed. Now, the bed was actually made. It is not something that they found and shot on and still exists. Unfortunately, no, it was destroyed in the making of the film. But the father of one of the filmmakers actually built the bed, and it's a huge bed. I mean, they have 4 people in this bed at one point. It's got a huge, gigantic headboard, posts on the end. A very, very gorgeous bed. I thought it was, it's a bed I'd love to have. Check it out in the trailer, if if you're at all interested. But yeah, it essentially ends up being situated inside of a, I guess, a sex club, if you will, a place where individuals can go and rent rooms and mingle about and get together and just hook up with people and such. Usually often they're private clubs. This one seems to be a bit open, considering I don't think any of these people had been there before, though they may have. But it's a group of 2 couples going, and they're going to fulfill some fantasies, and they end up being told that the hotel is booked, but slip them a little cash, and the person at the desk is just like, sure, you can take this room. Of course, that room happens to be where the Bed of the Dead is, and the owners of this place know that there's something going on in this room, and it's not kosher, which is why they're not supposed to rent it out. Why it hasn't just been boarded up, I don't know, but whatever. So these group of individuals get into the room, and of course, one by one, start to perish. We've got essentially I think there's 4 in the main group, and then there's another one that comes along. First one is a character of Virgil, played by Colin Price, who was also in Late Night Double Feature, actually a film, I believe it was a film directed by a friend of mine. Oddly enough, I didn't even think about that. And a few other things, based off in Canada. as such. But late night double feature. If you see it, I think it was just actually in one of those subscription boxes. I think maybe the DVD, the Blu-ray, just a limited edition exclusive Blu-ray came out. The official release I don't think is out yet. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. The next one is the character of Sandy, played by Alyssa King. Now, Alyssa King has been in everything from Holy Hell to Berkshire County, or Tormented, whichever title you go by, to Slasher, so she's not unfamiliar to the horror genre, but you may not have heard of anything that she's been in, unfortunately. Then we get Nancy, who is played by Gwendolyn Cumin. And I don't know that she's been in anything that you might... Well, she's been in Pure Ponage, or Pure Ownage, however you want to call it. You know, with the P. The video game thing, you know? She was Emma in that film, which some of my viewers may have seen. I have not yet checked it out, but it is on my list of things to eventually get around to. Then we get Ren, played by Dennis Andrews, who, Lady Psycho Killer, if you've seen that one. But that's about it. Nothing else real, no, right? And we get Fred, played by George Crissa. Now, George Crissa has not been in any other films. Sorry, George. But, Bed of the Dead had potential, and there is some good moments in the film, but I think the big problem people are going to have is the moments that it, should pay off don't, because of budget. At one point it's a face in a bed sheet, and that's the scary part. And honestly, I think most of it is front heavy in terms of that stuff. So as you go along, it's less and less interesting. And one of the things about it is the way that you die. It had, what was the film? Event Horizon. Was it Event Horizon? Where the sins of their past were what they were seeing, like ghosts and stuff were haunting them. Bed of the Dead is similar to that, whereas their sins of their past are what come back to haunt them and eventually kill them. Some of them are not very well essentially described or explained. Honestly, one we didn't even know, like there was a Q&A after the film, and they started explaining, because people had questions like, oh, what was up with that section, and they were like explaining this whole backstory, which I was like, was that in the I don't think that was in the film. And my friend beside me was like, no, that was not in the film. There is no way for us to have ever known that. I was like, okay, well, kind of forgot about that when they were making the movie. And honestly, there's probably stuff in the film regarding it, because there are little things in the film that kind of hint towards it, but I think it made it to the cutting room floor and ended up getting chopped out. Well, at least the aspect relating to this particular story, which I'm not going to give to you because it will possibly ruin, the film itself. Well, it'll give too much away. And so this has a lot of aspects regarding, hallucinating and visions and all that kind of stuff, and that's how the bed is trying to trick you into doing stuff and getting, essentially coming around and killing you. Apparently there's I don't think it's a rule that they put in the film, but I don't necessarily know that it makes sense, because the whole thing is you have to touch the bed, but you also have to get off the bed. So the bed can't kill you while you're on the bed or something? I don't know. It's really, really weird. Which made no sense. I mean, if you're going to have a bed of the dead, it should be able to kill you while it's, you're on it. But, I don't know. For some reason, that was a theme that was going along in the film. Whether it was true or whether it was just something that the bed was trying to, do to manipulate the people in the room, I don't know. But it was definitely something that they continually said over and over again. You had to stay on the bed. If you got off the bed, you would die. Makes no sense. If the bed of the dead kills you, then why can't it kill you while you're on it? But one of the things that the film actually did, which was a little different, which I didn't expect, was it played with time. And they essentially, the people of the past, because these people all die, there is an alcoholic police officer who goes and essentially goes to investigate these killings. And he's an alcoholic. People, the police force in general doesn't take too kindly to him, doesn't think too highly of him, and I think he's just coming back from leave. But at the same time, this is his thing, man. He wants to get in there and he wants to solve it, and he has a past, as all the characters do. And what ends up eventually happening is he ends up with a phone, and the phone is from one of the people who got killed. And what ends up happening is the people from the past try to call out on the phone, and they get him in the future. So this police officer and these people trapped in this room, eventually, they're talking back and forth through time. I know that sounds weird, but honestly, it is one of the better aspects of the film, and it leads up to, of course, the culmination of all this, to the climax and the eventual ending. How all of that is involved and goes together, and how they're related. And I can't say any more without giving it away. But it is an interesting... The acting in this film is not great. I'm not... Sorry to the actors who are in it, but I don't know if it was just a matter of what they had to work with. I mean, it's a killer bed, so I get that. But, I mean, some of the performances aren't there. But, other ones are perfectly acceptable for this level of film. And honestly, I think this film really struggles with budget. And it seems odd because, it's essentially what you would deem a single location film, killer bed. You shouldn't need anything great. I mean, you're not filling it full of, name actors or anything. I mean, there's no name actors whatsoever in this film. But they had such a limited budget on this that the creatures and all that kind of stuff that should have been in this film, that would have made it so much more interesting, were completely missing. And the kills just weren't there. They just weren't there. And it really was, I think it was really was a case of trying to come up with the sins of the individuals involved, that they could, without overlapping and using the same sin for every single person, be different and yet still be able to film it in somehow without using any money. So when you're essentially being killed by your past transgressions, sometimes you need some money. And that's where I think the biggest problem with Bed of the Dead is it's lack of funds. It really is lack of funds, because I think the idea actually makes sense, and I would actually want to see a Better the Dead sequel. I would be all for that, and which is odd to say, because I wouldn't necessarily recommend the first Better the Dead. Odd, right? I want to see a sequel to a film I don't really think works. Yeah, so there is definite problems with, essentially the entertainment value brought forth. Now, the story itself is, for the most part, pretty good. Again, some of it is limited by budget and, what the filmmakers could actually pull off. So, I think they could have, if they had more budget, they could have written in better sequences and better scenes and it just would have been more entertaining. But the film overall has the right idea. It's just the execution, unfortunately, isn't there because they had nothing to work with. I mean, it's a killer bed movie. What do you expect? But yeah, the things that would have made Better the Dead, really good and something I would have recommended, unfortunately aren't there due to budget. And it really is. It really is. This is a case of budget does not work. And yeah. It hurts. It hurts because I think there was potential with this film. It's not going to be, don't get me wrong, it would never be a great film. It may straddle on good, but at least with the budget, there could have been some entertainment value to it, and I think that's where it falls. It's lacking the entertainment value, and it doesn't really get interesting until the climax area where things start getting interwoven and such, and you start going, okay, this is a little bit interesting. It's not straight up kills and such, which up until that point that's all it was, and they weren't very good. So yeah, give it better kills, give it better, give it more budget, allow it to script to allow for better kills, and I think Better the Dead would have been a recommend. But I can't do that. Even though I'm a Canadian, this is Canadian born. Unfortunately, yeah, I don't know. And it's just too bad. It is too bad because I don't know. There was stuff in this film I enjoyed. There was stuff I liked. There were aspects of it that I was like, oh, okay, that I like what they're doing here. I like what they're, but as a whole, didn't come together. So yeah, this is not a sleeper hit of the festival. This is just a down and out sleeper. So, though I didn't fall asleep, oddly enough. Anyways, there you go. Better the Dead. Like I said, I want to see a sequel. I just don't want to see, a sequel with this kind of budget. Let's give it some money. Anyways, thanks for watching. Till next video, take care. Have a good one.